The war room of Outpost Grey 17 was built for silence, but tonight it trembled with noise. Sirens screamed again and again. Red warning lights washed the metal walls in blood-like color. A giant hologram floated in the center, showing human ships breaking apart in space like burning paper. This war had been going on for too long. Captain Eli Carter stood near the table, his shoulders heavy with exhaustion. His armor was scratched, his left sleeve burned, and dried blood marked his jaw. He had not slept properly in 3 days. Still, when Lieutenant Mara Hawley walked past him, he smiled. "You know," Eli said casually, "if we survive this, I'm officially asking you out." Mara stopped. She looked at him like he was crazy. "Captain," she said, "enemy fleets are closing in. Half our defenses are gone." Eli shrugged. "That's a maybe then." For a moment, despite the alarms and the fear, Mara laughed. It was a short laugh, tired and soft, but it was real. "You're impossible," she said. "But charming," Eli replied. Across the room, someone was watching them very closely. The Lyra of the Cathari stood perfectly still near the wall. She was taller than any human in the room, her silver-blue skin glowing faintly under the red lights. Her eyes, large and luminous, reflected the burning ships on the hologram. She was an alien, once a noble officer of a powerful empire. Now her empire was ash. Valera had joined the humans only weeks ago, after her people were destroyed by the same enemy. She had seen death before. She understood war, discipline, sacrifice, but this? She did not understand this. She watched Eli and Mara exchange looks, soft, familiar, almost warm. Their voices were calm. Human hearts were fragile, yet they behaved as if the universe was not collapsing around them. Valera stepped forward. "Captain Carter," she said, her voice clear and sharp, "may I ask a question?" The room slowly quieted. Even the joking stopped. Eli turned toward her. "Sure, go ahead." Valera tilted her head slightly, studying him the way a scientist studies fire. "Why?" she asked. "Are you engaging in flirtatious behavior during active wartime conditions?" The silence became heavy. Mara blinked. Someone near the console coughed. Eli looked confused for a second, then smiled. "Oh, that?" "Yes," Valera said seriously. That Mara crossed her arms. "We do this," she said simply. "But why?" Valera pressed. "Your species faces possible extinction. Emotional bonding at this moment appears illogical." Eli rested his hands on the table and leaned closer. "Because we're scared," he said. Valera frowned. "Fear should reduce unnecessary behavior." Eli shook his head. "For humans, fear makes us hold on to what matters." Valera did not reply. Her people had taught her that emotions were weaknesses. Love was postponed. Joy was delayed. Survival came first, yet her people were gone. A loud explosion shook the station. The hologram flickered as another human ship vanished. Mara's smile faded. She looked at Eli, eyes serious now. "Stay alive," she said quietly. Eli nodded. "Always." They separated, returning to their posts. Valera remained frozen in place. Something inside her chest felt tight. Not pain, not fear, something unfamiliar. Later, when the alarms finally paused, Valera found Eli alone near the observation window. Space beyond was dark and scarred, filled with wreckage. "I am still confused," she said. Eli sighed. "About the flirting thing?" "Yes." She stepped closer. "My people believed emotions weakened soldiers." Eli looked out at the stars. "Then your people were wrong." She studied his face. Tired, wounded, still gentle. How can humor and affection exist beside death? She asked. Eli answered without turning around. "Because if we let war take our humanity," he said, "then we already lost." Valera felt the words sink deep into her mind. For the first time since her homeworld burned, she wondered if strength did not come from control, but from connection. And somewhere deep inside her, A quiet question formed. If humans flirt during war, what else have I never been taught to feel? The next morning, Outpost Gray 17 was quiet for the first time in days. Smoke still curled from the damaged corridors, and the hum of machinery was low, almost comforting. Valera walked through the hall, her steps echoing on the metal floor. Her silver-blue skin glowed faintly under the dim emergency lights, and her long fingers brushed the walls as if seeking some connection to this strange human place. She found Ela sitting alone near a window that looked out into the black void of space. The stars blinked coldly, indifferent to war, to death, to life. Ela had a small bandage over his cheek, and he stared at the stars with a soft expression. Valera stopped a few feet away. I still do not understand, she said quietly. Humans smile during war. You make jokes. You speak words meant for love, for desire, while death is near. Why? Eli turned, his green eyes tired but kind. He gestured for her to sit beside him. She hesitated, then lowered herself onto the edge of the metal bench. In the Dominion, she said, emotions were restricted during conflict. Love, humor, desire, they were considered weaknesses. We focused on efficiency, on obedience, on survival. There was no room for laughter, for warmth. Eli listened quietly. He let her speak without interruption, as he often did with his crew. It was effective, she continued, but empty. Cold. I have followed humans into battle, but I do not feel the same discipline you call strength. I feel chaos and confusion. Eli smiled softly. You feel alive, Valera tilted her head. Alive? Perhaps, but not fulfilled. Your people behave differently. You smile in the face of danger. You touch each other when the world wants to kill you. You flirt when every instinct should scream for survival. Eli leaned back, stretching his arms. Maybe that's the point. We survive because we don't just fight with weapons. We survive because we fight with hope. And hope often wears a smile. Valera's glowing eyes narrowed. A smile will not stop a plasma blast. A joke cannot shield against a missile. No, Eli said. But it gives us something to live for. If we can still love, laugh, even tease each other while the world burns, then death doesn't control us completely. Valera stared at him. For a moment, she thought she understood, but it was more than that. It felt strange, foreign, like trying to breathe water. Her people had always believed that control, calculation, and strength alone would save them. Now she wondered if the humans' weaknesses were their real weapons. She remembered Mara's touch yesterday, light and quick on Eli's arm. How he had looked steadier after that small gesture. How his hands stopped shaking when the world felt impossible. Valera had studied countless tactics, endless strategies, but she had never considered this. Connection, feeling, joy, love. Her chest felt tight in a way she could not explain. It was not fear, not grief, it was something else. Something she had never allowed herself. Do you ever regret showing emotion during battle? She asked, her voice softer than usual. Eli looked at her, his tired eyes gentle. No, never. I regret the moments I didn't. Every laugh, every touch, every small moment of care, that's what keeps us human. That's what keeps us alive. Valera remained silent, her mind replaying. The images of humans in the mess hall after last battle. Bruised, wounded, yet laughing and sharing stories. They clutched at each other, leaning close in ways that defied danger itself. She could not reconcile it with the teachings of her past, but something deep inside her stirred. For the first time in weeks, Valera wanted to feel more than duty. She wanted to see, to touch, to experience what humans call joy, love, even mischief. She wanted to understand their strange, beautiful strength. Eli stood and extended his hand. Come on, he said. I'll show you how humans survive war. Valera hesitated. Then, slowly, she took it. The warmth of his hand surprised her. Not physically, it was not his heat, but the certainty in his touch, confidence without arrogance, strength without cruelty. And in that single human gesture, Valera realized something terrifying. She was beginning to care. And caring, she knew, could be more dangerous than any enemy ship. She looked up at him, her glowing eyes reflecting a mixture of curiosity and fear. "Then, teach me," she whispered. "Teach me how to be human." Eli smiled, and for the first time Valera thought maybe, just maybe, surviving war was not the only lesson humans could offer. Because in the darkest hours, sometimes the smallest sparks, laughter, touch, affection, could burn brighter than any weapon. The sun had barely risen when the alarm screamed again. Outpost Gray 17 shook violently as the first wave of enemy ships tore through the outer shields. Smoke filled the corridors, and the metallic taste of fear lingered in every corner. The humans were ready, but even the bravest hearts quivered. Valera ran beside Eli, her long strides keeping pace with his shorter, hurried steps. The humans were shouting commands, firing weapons, moving as a unit despite the chaos. She had fought many battles before, but something about these humans felt different. They were laughing, shouting, even teasing each other, even as explosions rocked the walls around them. It was madness, but it worked. "Cover me," Eli shouted, dragging the plasma launcher toward the breach. Valera followed, her movements precise and deadly. She could sense every enemy ship's angle and velocity. Her alien instincts told her to dominate, to strike and leave no survivors. But humans fought differently. They relied on unpredictability, on instinct mixed with emotion. She had never seen such chaos turn into coordination. A plasma blast tore through the wall near them, throwing Eli backward. Valera's heart clenched. She sprinted toward him, grabbing his arm and pulling him behind a metal barrier. Sparks rained around them. Eli coughed but grinned weakly. "You okay?" she demanded, her voice trembling slightly. "Never better," Eli said, brushing ash from his sleeve. "You worried about me?" Valera froze. Her eyes widened, glowing brighter in the smoke-filled hall. That question, simple, human, made her chest tighten. She had been trained to prioritize survival and strategy, not feelings. But now she realized she cared. More than she had ever allowed herself to care. "Yes," she admitted softly. "More than I should." Eli's grin softened. "Good, means you're human now." Mara appeared, firing over Valera's shoulder. "We're counting on you, Valera," she shouted. "Don't let them through." Valera's hands moved with lethal precision. Plasma bolts streaked through the air, and alien soldiers fell before her. Every shot she fired was calculated, but every thought in her mind was of Eli. The fear of losing him made her faster, sharper, more determined than ever before. The enemy pushed forward, relentless and cold. Every wall they breached brought more chaos, more noise, more death. And yet, the humans kept smiling. They joked even as they bled. They teased each other, even while despair hung over the hall like smoke. Valera began to understand. It was not recklessness. It was defiance. Hours passed like minutes. The battle was consuming, brutal, merciless. Valera and Eli found themselves cornered in the central control room, the enemy advancing from all sides. Their ammunition was low, their shields flickering. Eli grabbed her arm. "Stay with me," he said firmly. "We end this together." Valera nodded, her fear sharpening into clarity. "We survive," she said, almost a whisper, but filled with determination. They fought side by side, moving as one. Mara covered their backs, shouting orders to the remaining soldiers. Valera felt something she had never felt before, not fear, not anger, not just duty, but a raw, overwhelming connection to these humans. To Eli, to life itself. The enemy finally faltered, retreating as the humans pushed back with a combination of skill, courage, and heart. Smoke cleared. Alarms still blared, but the worst of the assault had ended. The survivors stood, exhausted, battered, but alive. Valera leaned against the wall, trying to catch her breath. Her chest ached not from exertion, but from the realization that she had survived, not because of strategy alone, but because she had allowed herself to care. Eli approached her, brushing ash from her shoulder. "You did well," he said quietly, and there was no teasing in his voice. Just honesty. Just warmth. Valera looked at him, her glowing eyes reflecting both the stars outside and something far more dangerous. "Hope. Thank you," she whispered, "for letting me feel." Eli smiled, the kind of tired, gentle smile that carried both relief and unspoken emotion. "No," he said softly. "Thank you. For being human." Valera realized then that war could not touch what humans held inside. Their courage was not only in their weapons or skill, it was in their hearts. Their connections, their willingness to love, to laugh, to defy death itself. And for the first time, Valera felt that she belonged not just as a soldier, but as someone capable of fear, hope, and perhaps even love. The battle had tried to break them, but the humans and Valera had endured, because even in war, humanity refused to surrender what made them alive. After the battle, Outpost Gray 17 felt strangely quiet. The red alarms were gone, replaced by the soft hum of repair drones. Smoke lingered in the corners, and scorch marks ran along the walls like scars. Humans moved carefully among the wreckage, tired but alive, their uniforms torn, their faces smeared with ash. Despite everything, there was something else in the air, a small, stubborn thread of life that refused to be broken. Valera walked through the mess hall, her steps deliberate, her eyes glowing faintly under the flickering lights. She had never seen anything like this. Soldiers were sitting together, laughing at jokes that should have been too silly, too fragile for war. They shared rations and water, bandaged each other's wounds, and even sang quietly. Soft melodies that carried courage more than words ever could. She found Eli sitting at a table with Mara, sipping something warm. The corners of his mouth were smeared with soot, but his green eyes sparkled. He noticed her and gestured for her to join them. Valera hesitated. This closeness, this casual care, felt alien to her. "Why do you do this?" she asked quietly, sliding onto the bench. "Why celebrate after loss? Why laugh after death has walked beside you?" Eli smiled softly. "Because that's what keeps us alive, Valera. Because if we mourn and fight and survive without remembering how to live, then the war has already won." Valera frowned. "Your logic, it is flawed. One would expect morale to fall after so many casualties. Humans should collapse." "Some do," Eli said, glancing at Mara, "but others fight with something the enemy can't see. Love, hope, humor, defiance. That's how humans survive the impossible." She watched Mara reach over and brush Eli's hand briefly. He responded with a small squeeze. Valera felt an unfamiliar tightness in her chest. It was not fear. It was something else. Something dangerous. She remembered her life before the Dominion's strict rules. The endless drills, the cold efficiency that demanded no personal attachment. She had been trained to suppress all signs of weakness. And yet, here she was, drawn to the human's madness. Drawn to the warmth she did not understand but could not resist. Valera took a careful breath. "If I wished to experience this," she said slowly, "how would I begin?" Eli blinked. "Experience what?" "Connection, humor, flirting. All this strange behavior humans do even while death waits outside." Mara laughed, soft and surprised. "You want to learn flirting?" Valera's silver blue eyes met theirs, serious and unwavering. "Yes, this is not a joke." Eli's lips curved into a gentle smile. It starts with honesty, he said. You say what you feel without fear of judgment. Even if it's silly. Even if it's dangerous. Valera's head tilted slightly. And if I fail? You won't, Eli replied. Because failure is not the end. Humans fail all the time. And somehow we still survive. Somehow we still laugh. The room grew quiet for a moment. Outside, the stars shimmered through the windows, silent witnesses to the chaos and the courage. Valera realized she was holding her breath. I feel, she said carefully, safer when you are near. Even when the world wants to destroy everything. Eli's eyes softened. That's a good start, he said quietly. Flirting during war is not weakness. It's courage. Valera blinked, the realization slowly sinking in. Courage was not just strength with a weapon. Courage was choosing to feel. Choosing to care. Choosing to connect when the universe tried to tear you apart. She felt something unfamiliar ripple through her chest. Warmth, curiosity, longing. She wanted to laugh, to tease, to reach for these humans who had shown her that survival was more than muscle and strategy. It was heart. Eli stood, holding out his hand. Come with me, he said. I'll show you more. Valera hesitated only for a moment. Then she took it. The warmth of his hand was not just physical, it was a promise, a lifeline. For the first time since her homeworld burned, Valera felt that she was not just surviving. She was living, and as she walked beside him, through the ruined halls of the outpost and the stars beyond, she realized that learning to be human was more dangerous than any battle. Because when she allowed herself to care, to hope, to laugh, she risked more than death. She risked her heart. And yet, she wanted to. The war had taught her destruction. The humans were teaching her connection. And for Valera, that lesson was just beginning. Weeks passed, but peace never lasted. The enemy regrouped, larger and more ruthless than before. Outpost Gray 17 was no longer just a station, it was a symbol. A symbol of human resilience, of stubborn defiance, of laughter and love that refused to die even under fire. Valera, now more attuned to human ways, walked the command deck beside Eli. Her steps were faster, more confident. She no longer hesitated to speak, to joke quietly, even to smile in the midst of tension. The enemy fleet appeared on the sensors like a dark wave, stretching across the stars. Ships glowed red, bristling with weapons, ready to crush anything that opposed them. Valera's heart tightened, but not in fear. Something else burned inside her, a fierce excitement, a rush of connection to the humans she had come to care for. She glanced at Eli, whose green eyes were calm, steady. He turned to her, a faint smirk on his face. Ready to see why humans are dangerous? He asked softly. Valera nodded. I am ready. Eli's hand brushed hers, light and fleeting, but it carried warmth she had never known before. Her chest fluttered. This was not the Dominion's calculated power. This was something unpredictable, raw, and alive. She realized that even fear itself had become sharper, more thrilling, because now she had someone to protect, and someone who protected her in return. The enemy opened fire. Bright lines of plasma cut through the darkness of space. Alarms screamed. Human ships moved with precision, but there was more than strategy at work here. There was trust. There was courage. And there was love, quiet, stubborn, burning like a star inside the cruise. Valera took the control panel, her fingers dancing over commands, her mind racing. She redirected shields, launched counterattacks, and coordinated with human pilots. Every action she took was precise, but every thought was of Eli, of Mara, of the bonds she had come to cherish. Her alien training had taught her to destroy, to dominate, to focus solely on efficiency. Human training had taught her something else, to fight with heart, to live with connection. Valera! Eli shouted. Over here! They're breaking through our flank. She sprinted to his side, plasma bolts streaking past. Her body moved with perfect coordination, her mind alive with both fear and exhilaration. She pulled him into cover, her hand lingering just a moment too long on his arm. He looked at her and grinned. "You're faster than I expected," he teased, though smoke and sweat streaked his face. She rolled her eyes, but could not hide her own smile. "You're lucky I'm on your side." And in that instant, the enemy faltered, not because of superior firepower, not because of strategy, but because humans were unbreakable in ways Valera had never imagined. Their hearts, their connections, their laughter, and yes, even their flirting small sparks of joy amidst devastation became a weapon more potent than missiles or plasma. Hours passed. Ships fell, shields cracked, but Grey 17 held. The enemy finally began to retreat, their formations breaking under the relentless, unpredictable, and entirely human assault. Exhaustion pressed against Valera's body, but her spirit soared. She had fought beside humans who refused to surrender their humanity. Even in war, they had smiled, joked, touched, cared, and dared to love. Eli came to her side once the enemy was gone. His uniform was torn, his face smeared with ash, but his eyes shone with quiet triumph. "See?" he said. "They learned fear. Not from our guns, not from our tactics, but from us. From being human." Valera looked around at the human crews, bloodied, battered, but laughing quietly among themselves. For the first time, she understood the truth of it. Strength was not just muscle or strategy. Strength was heart. Courage was not just facing death, it was smiling in its presence, laughing, connecting, daring to feel. She looked at Eli again. Her chest tightened, and for a moment she allowed herself to admit it. She was proud of them all. Proud to fight beside them. Proud to be human in a way she had never thought possible. "You taught me well," she said softly, almost to herself, but Eli heard. He smiled, brushing her hand lightly. "You taught yourself. I just reminded you how humans do it." Valera nodded, her glowing eyes reflecting both the stars and something deeper: hope, courage, love. In the face of overwhelming darkness, humans had survived. Not because they were perfect, not because they were invincible, but because they refused to give up what made them alive: connection, laughter, and even a little madness in the midst of war. And for Valera, the lesson was clear: if humans could flirt, laugh, and love while the universe burned around them, then they could endure anything. She had never felt so alive. The war was over. Silence fell over the stars like a soft blanket, and the wreckage of Outpost Grey 17 gleamed under the distant light of a dying sun. Smoke and ash still lingered, but the constant alarms, the fear, and the chaos were gone. The humans moved among the ruins, tending to the wounded, repairing what could be saved, and sharing quiet words of relief. For Valera, the calm was almost unbearable. She had grown used to the tension, the danger, the constant need to act. Now in the quiet, she faced something far more dangerous: her own thoughts. She walked slowly to the observation deck, where Eli was already standing, staring out at the vast black emptiness of space. Stars twinkled coldly, distant and silent witnesses to all the battles fought and lives lost. His green eyes reflected the starlight, but also something warmer: peace, relief, and a kind of gentle hope that Valera had never known before. "Beautiful," she said softly. Almost to herself, Eli turned, a small smile on his face. "It is quiet finally." Valera stepped closer. Her glowing eyes, so bright in battle, now seemed softer, almost hesitant. I understand now," she said. Her voice carried an unfamiliar weight, emotion threading through every word. "Why humans flirt during war?" Eli raised an eyebrow, curious. "Oh, yes," she said. "It is not distraction. It is defiance. It is proof that even when everything around you is chaos, even when death walks beside you, humans choose life, connection, laughter, warmth, and love. Eli nodded slowly, his smile widening. Exactly. You've got it. Valera took a deep breath, her chest tight with something she did not fully understand. And I wish to continue this behavior. Not just with anyone, but with you. If it is acceptable. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. Stars blinked in silence, and Valera's glowing eyes were fixed on him with all the seriousness of an alien warrior who had finally learned what it meant to feel. Eli felt his heart tighten. He had faced death countless times, seen friends fall, and survived battles that should have broken him. But now here, in the quiet aftermath, he realized that the greatest courage was not facing the enemy, it was opening your heart. I'd like that, he said simply. More than anything. Valera's chest swelled. The warmth she felt was not just relief, it was recognition. She had crossed the threshold from soldier to human, from survivor to someone who dared to feel deeply. And it scared her. More than missiles, more than plasma blasts, more than anything the universe had thrown at her. She reached for his hand, hesitated, then placed hers gently in his. The connection was simple, small, but it carried the weight of all the lessons she had learned in the past weeks. The laughter in the mess hall, the courage in the battlefield, the defiance in human hearts that refused to break even when surrounded by despair. She began, then paused. The words were fragile, new, and terrifying. I have never known this, never allowed myself to know it. But now I want it, all of it. With you. Eli squeezed her hand gently. Then you have it. All of it. And we'll figure it out together. Step by step. Valera's eyes glimmered, reflecting not just starlight, but hope and something far deeper. Love, a feeling she had never thought she could allow herself. She had fought in battles, survived impossible odds, and now she faced the most human challenge of all, opening her heart. The silence between them was not empty. It was full of possibility, of understanding, of quiet joy that lingered like a promise. Valera realized that the human strength was not in weapons or strategy, but in courage to feel, to care, to hold on to connection even when the universe demanded otherwise. And now, she understood that courage fully. She looked at Eli and smiled, a small, tentative smile that carried everything she had learned, the defiance, the hope, the longing. And so, she whispered, I will try. To laugh, to care, to flirt, if it brings life in the face of death. Eli smiled back, a warmth in his eyes that mirrored her own. That's how humans survive, he said softly. And how we live. Valera let out a breath she hadn't realized she had been holding. For the first time, she did not feel like a soldier, nor a stranger in a human world. She felt like herself, fully, a live dot, and as they stood together, hand in hand, looking out at the quiet stars, Valera understood something she had never believed possible, that even after war, even after loss, humanity's true weapon was the courage to feel, and she was ready to wield it. Years had passed since the war. Stars still burned silently, and the wreckage of countless battles had long been forgotten. Outpost Grey 17 had been rebuilt, stronger and brighter, a symbol not of destruction, but of survival. Valera walked along the observation deck, her silver-blue skin catching the glow of distant stars. She was no longer just an alien who had survived humanity, she had become a part of it. She had learned their laughter, their defiance, and yes, even their strange, wonderful way of flirting in the face of chaos. She stood beside Eli, who had aged little in the way humans did. He had laughed at the rebuilding, joked with the crew, and yet carried the quiet weight of a man who had seen death and lived. Valera's eyes followed him, her chest tightening with a warmth she had never known before. The war had taken much from them, but it had given her something more important: understanding. Understanding that strength was not only steel and firepower, it was heart, courage, and connection. Valera had been called to the Galactic Council, a gathering of species that had watched humans with curiosity, suspicion, and sometimes fear. They had asked her what made humanity so dangerous. What allowed a species that seemed so fragile to survive against impossible odds? She remembered the war, the blood, the ash, the laughter in the halls, the way Eli had taken her hand in the middle of chaos, the way Mara had smiled even as the world burned. And she understood fully. Humans are dangerous, she said before the council, her voice clear and unwavering. Not because of weapons, not because of fleets, not because of strategy. She paused, letting the words sink in. Humans are dangerous because even when the universe tries to crush them, they do not surrender their connection to life. They care, they laugh, they love, they fight not only for survival but for each other. And sometimes, she added with a small, sly smile, they even flirt while doing it. The chamber was silent. Some of the alien delegates whispered nervously. Some laughed, uncertain if she spoke seriously. Valera met their eyes with unshakable confidence. This is not weakness. This is our loudest weapon.